Hello and happy Monday, everybody. So, a couple things going on for today's musings. I think I figured out. Whoa. Okay, well, right there, that's a great segue into it. So, light dynamics and the game dynamics concerning light in Minecraft. And by that, I mean, let's go ahead and mine just a little more of this. I don't know, that's all good. I guess we'll just do some running back and forth, but there we go. Have like a good couple stacks. So, anyways, little backstory. This is a red bridge that I started building. Um, because eventually I'm going to try to build a gigantic red fortress over here and see if it shows up. And it's also kind of like the goat's tongue. If you look at the mini map right here where I'm spinning, it's right at the mouth of. Oh gosh, that would have been bad. But anyways, yeah, be aware of your surroundings before you just start gallivanting off. But anyways, so I'm building this gigantic red bridge, and I'm trying to remember why I'm even connecting it here because, and I'll show you what I mean. Like over here is the actual place where I exited out of a mine shaft, and so I built this whole thing, and that's originally where I built the first part of the big red bridge. I just started making the goat tongue after I wanted to do something about how there's just a goat head in the middle of my map, and then it has a gigantic tongue, and then it's like wrapping around, and then it goes up, and that is the original structure that I built to mark the exit of, well, a tunnel that I built, or sorry, I had to mine my way out of a mine shaft. I mean, I didn't have to, but I didn't want to spend the time looking for an exit, so I just mined diagonally up because you don't mine straight up in Minecraft. Like I almost fell off trying to like move the cursor there. But anyways, shows how much I play this game and how, well, I'm not too worried because if you fall, I should just go ahead and do it. Woo! You can't get hurt as long as you fall in water. Now, even if I were to fall on land from that height, I imagine that's at least, I'd say that's one of the half health ones, but I don't think that's enough to kill me. And even if it is, I mean, like, it's not like I'm falling into a pit of lava. Now, lava's the worst because then you lose all your tools and everything like I already did, and your map, so then you got to go make a new map on top of crafting all new tools and enchanting them. But anyways, the red bridge, and why I bring that up is because over here, in the original red bridge, yep, see, I just marked it with whatever I had and had some magma cubes and stuff. And there is there. So just letting myself know that here's where that mine shaft is, if I even want to get back to it. But anyways, oh, okay. Never mind. This really is a mystery. Oh, wait, no, it isn't. All right. So what I was thinking is, the other day I was building this and I came across a light source like this. And I couldn't tell, nothing above, nothing below, nothing that would indicate that. Although nothing below from what I thought, because I was thinking like the immediate, and even just now I looked to see, oh, let's see. I looked to see if there was maybe a torch right here, which that's even more curious or more interesting. So I think it's from the underwater illuminations, basically, is my theory. And I'm not sure why it doesn't affect more like there you can see. But I did notice that there was some stuff underwater below the other two spots where I saw this. Oh yeah, and also I marked something over there. But anyways, yeah, so there's a couple of light sources there. I think those are the sea cucumbers, or it could be not sea lanterns. That's like the whole cube. But even just like walking by it, we could even dive down there and see. But actually, before we do that, let's go to the original spot, just because like that, I mean, that definitely looks like that too. Although it's becoming daytime, so it's going to be kind of harder to see. But either way, you can still see it. Like clearly there's a deviation or a different spot, a change in the color, the hue, the brightness, whatever. Like there's a change. So anyways, and I know I could probably actually go and look at the underlying code. In fact, I want to do that still one day, like actually do the Minecrafting thing that way, but no. Haven't gotten to yet. In fact, I'm playing on a console where at least with the other version on the computer, I could push F3 and see all of that information. But and maybe you could do it here, or maybe it's the settings. I don't know. I mean, that makes sense. Like you have the settings interface to see a lot of that information. But anyways, here you can see it really plainly, multiple spots. And this is over a body of water. Like that was part of the purpose of why I wanted to build here, was to kind of have it over the river, so you could do awesome stuff like that, like jump. Although not everywhere, because you can land on some land, but yeah, and also just having a fortress, building an actual gigantic structure or something, a giant temple out here. I don't know, but here you can see. And so I was just confused, and I thought maybe it was the sunlight. Well, we're looking right at the sun. It rises like that, and then it goes over there, rises in the east and sets in the west, just like real life. Because if you look at my map, this is where we're facing now. Rises in the east, sets in the west. Sorry, I went a little farther there. I was looking at the map, not where I was at. Anyways, so that strikes out that theory, or at least makes it a lot less likely. And so that's the other thing, when you're thinking problem solving, and I know I keep saying this, in a computer science way, like in a scalable way to ensure that you're really solving the problem and not just solving a few iterations or a few instances of the problem. So like here, we're trying to see all the angles, all the corner spots, all the corner cases and blind spots. The other thing I like to say is because anything like that can get you when you're trying to program, and it'll make your life a nightmare at least for a couple of days while you're trying to figure out the bug, or maybe you figure it out all quickly and then you get a nice sigh of relief. But anyways, back to where I was at. I was thinking that maybe it was the sun shining through here because we got this blocking and this blocking, so there's a potential for that. But really, there's a light there. That's a squid. Another one. I don't know. It just seems more likely that the light from there, because I've also read and heard on other videos like Waddles and stuff with Minecraft, as far as that goes, that there's a certain, well, and actually, yeah, I just know there's a certain light level that allows enemy mobs to spawn. Except for slime. Slime doesn't care about light. You can still have a slime block. But I'm in peaceful just because I don't like. I mean, when I'm in the mood for it, sure. And when I'm playing with friends, sure, I'll play with enemy mobs. But when I'm just out here wandering around, I don't want some zombie just coming up and attacking me, or especially a creeper just blowing up my stuff. Like, then it's like, what's the point of building it? So, anyways, back to this. Even here, it's harder to see, but you can distinctly see there's three spots, maybe even a fourth one down there where the reticle's at. And so it's there. And so I'm sure we could find some corresponding. Anyways, that just jumped out at me. And there, yeah, like I said, there's a certain light level for mobs to spawn. And I did see, I was just starting to watch the new series of Waddles where he's starting a new world, and there's just like almost no mob spawning in the cave he's in. So, anyways, so that I digress. That was where that was at. But the other reason I wanted to jump on and make a musings is because actually there's another. I only have 8 emeralds, so it doesn't matter. But I had a couple of aha moments myself. So just thinking and connecting some dots. I mean, because I constantly say, it's important to think more carefully about problem solving when it comes to people. And that's just another way to think about it. Like, we have the Department of Corrections and law enforcement are two just kind of like vague general terms of like how we try to problem solve with people that behave in ways that we consider problems. So, human problem solving, basically. And it's easy to point at like human hacking in the negative aspect, like social engineering, where you actually gain information or access to systems by manipulating humanity, basically the human element of a system. And by that I mean, a system consists of all the security cameras, all of the databases, all the computer code running things, the firewalls, everything. And then also the human aspect of the system, well, security system or business system, whatever. Like that part of that thing is really a better way to think about it. System being, you could be really vague and generalize and say a lot of things are systems, but when it comes to cybersecurity, the human element is actually the biggest flaw. Whether it's someone clicking a phishing email or whether it's someone, and now I'm not saying this, so you can go out and do this because, and that's kind of the double-edged sword of teaching cybersecurity. And that's why I won't actually like teach the red teaming side. Actually, I gotta be careful because I was already like, anyways. Because you really should. Like, you should only be studying the dark arts to know how to protect against them. Like, if you're out there trying to do that, then you're the one that, like, the majority of the world should be and is targeting. So, and not in a sense, like, yeah, Like death is the only permanent. That's not a solution. I'm not saying that, but like target you as in address it. Now, how do we want to go about it? Well, currently the system that we have in place is a or well, first a law enforcement system. And so law enforcement enforces the law not just by arresting people, just by being out and being present, being seen. They enforce the law because you're less likely to speed if you see a cop. In fact, you're a lot less likely, you know, to even do anything aside from driving what is the perfect behavior to not get pulled over. And it doesn't matter if you've been drinking or you have anything in the car or not. Like even normal, normal drives, like not breaking any laws. Yeah. But well, and especially so, okay, we won't even get into all that. But what I'm saying is like just seeing a police officer is a deterrent to crime or any unlawful behavior or breaking the rules. So, you got to keep constantly thinking about all these things. Like you're not a lifelong criminal if you do these things. You just, anyways, I digress. But so seeing a cop, that's a deterrent. Now, having the police officer actually be involved in the community is a much better deterrent, and that's a lot easier to do in small towns. So that's why it's kind of one of the big shocks for me coming to a city was just how disrespectful people were to cops, like in reality. But then also, because I mean, I listen to NWA, I listen to that song, F the Police and all that. Like, not get excited about that, but just like it was a jam and stuff. And like, and certain cops, yeah. But again, that scalable thinking of like, you can't pigeonhole everybody into a situation, especially law enforcement. There are, and I hate that people argue so much against that argument, like a few bad cops and all this. Like you can have a few spiders in your Chips Ahoy cookies, or I think it's rat droppings or something ridiculous before it's not considered okay to sell. So, don't come at me with that whole percentages and stuff. The fact is a few doesn't spoil the whole batch. I know it might for apples, but we're not apples, we're people. I mean, we're sentient beings with opposable thumbs that think for ourselves and reason and logic. So to generalize and leave it as a cartoonish saying of like, oh, well, apples spoil batch, and I don't know if that's actually true. I saw somewhere it's like, well, yeah, that is it. A few bad apples spoils the batch or something. And if not, it could be, but the point is it doesn't matter. And that's the scalable solution to even just that line of thought is it doesn't matter what the saying was. I understand what it's being used for in common arguments when talking about law enforcement and why current law enforcement practices aren't effective and lethal in certain situations. So they need to be addressed. Now, not just law enforcement, we need to address how we act as people too, because it's a two-way street. I mean, we've also got to like shore up ourselves to where we're not getting into these situations. And I honestly believe the way we do that is um, federal legalization of cannabis. Seriously, like, because that's like the biggest reason that if you investigate, if you really look down the road, like why anybody gets in trouble, and let me clarify, because it's not just because they use marijuana or cannabis or whatever you want to call it. It's because either a combination of that or they used alcohol thinking that it was a safe, legal way to recreate and not being able to recreate in a different way. And and then white knuckling it too. Like the people that remain abstinent and sober and all that, like I'm sorry, but it just doesn't seem like you're living it if you don't at least see. Like I don't know. That's kind of like a hard way to like describe things, but like I don't know, because then you don't really know for yourself whether it is or it isn't. And that's just kind of the thing. So I don't know. And that's like the scientific mindset. Like you don't actually believe it until you see it. Now there's certain things, obviously, like you don't want to like eat molten lava or, you know, a lot of other things that would be common sense. Like, I don't know. We probably shouldn't be going into all of this early, but let's talk about the perspective being important and communication too. So communication and perspective were the two big aha moments I have. And don't worry, I will get back to that. I was talking about law enforcement and corrections, but communication and perspective just with law enforcement. Let's go there. So, as is a lot of people, well, I guess it does kind of tie back into the war on drugs. So a lot of people, how do I put this? Because see, you even gotta be careful with what you say even nowadays, because like federally, cannabis is still illegal, even though Colorado here, it's totally legal. I mean, for recreation or medicinal, and it's medicinal in so many states. And I've checked a million times. It's constantly changing, and like, in fact, I actually stopped checking a long time ago. Like, I don't know, how do I even put that? Basically, It's alcohol versus cannabis. I mean, even if you never use cannabis, and that's totally fine. Like, I'm not saying everybody has to go out and use cannabis, but just providing that alternative for people that don't want to use alcohol, yet they don't want to fall behind in social circles. So, there is the crux of the situation is you have to at least be cool with it. And it's getting better too, mind you. Like, I mean, and that is one thing I noticed, like in this one place I worked where alcohol was very encouraged and everything, and it was even available there because we did stuff for the liquor industry. But anyways, sorry, not trying to give a whole lot of. I mean, anyways, there was a lot of people that didn't drink. They just made the choice, or maybe it was made for them, so they say. And that's one thing I do, that it does need repeating. It bears repeating. Is people that struggle with alcohol, it's not anything on them. Everybody struggles with alcohol. Nobody handles alcohol completely gracefully. And if you think you do, I got a bridge to sell you because everybody's got a drunken story if they drink alcohol. I mean, it's just a fact. Like, unless you came out. And so, if that's true, then I'd like to see you play a video game, any game, because if you just play it your first time, then obviously you're top notch, pro at it without ever seeing what it is. No, that's the way experience and learning and understanding as a human works. Like, that's the scientific method. Like, you observe, you experiment, you test, and then you record, like all of that. We learn this in grade school, or we don't, and that's why some people are doomed to make such mistakes and whatnot. But the fact of the matter is, oh, and by some people, I mean just about everybody, really. And that's because of communications and situations. There we go. We made it into a fortune cookie cutter. I know it's not really cookie cutter, but we went over that last musings or two ago, whatever. Um, but you get these little one-line zingers that sound nice and they stick in your head. They're like great for marketing. They make you want to buy things, and they work great for capitalism. But do they actually work great for society? Not saying that they work poorly, but by themselves, standalone phrases like that aren't enough to effectively communicate what is really needing to be communicated. Now, they're great to get you in the store and buy a product, sure. Now, but to subscribe to an idea, to buy an idea, well, then it just really has to be, and I guess that's why it's so hard to really get quote unquote common sense. And yes, I use air quotes. Homeboy might have tried to ruin him, but no, I use air quotes. Anyways, um, what was I saying with that? It's because at that time, in that moment, a lot of things might seem correct or accurate or the right thing to do. The greatest or the easiest thing to point out is slavery. Now, nobody thought that that was like the good thing to do. I mean, you can't tell me that unless there was like some really sick person. And then at the end of the day, even that sick person, like, okay, what was going on in the background? Like, what were the events that led up to this person acting in such a way? Like, clearly there was some abuse or like, some PTSD or something. Not saying it's okay, like, but let's actually try to stop the behavior instead of just punish it and play whack-a-mole after the fact. Like, because that's what we're currently doing. And okay, so yeah, let's talk about that. Corrections and law enforcement, it's whack-a-mole. Now we have these people going out and committing these crimes, breaking the law, whatever it may be. And again, 200 years ago, or wait, no, 1800s about, so I don't even know. Not that long ago, not long enough to be. I mean, like our country's only been around for, it's like 200, it's coming on 300 in about 50 years, 1776 to 2076. Yeah. So, anyways, yes, I do remember when we became a country. Sorry, like, if I'm ever trying to like do the math or something like that, I'm trying to, anyways, whatever. But no, situate law enforcement and corrections, what we currently do, and I'm not saying that we should stop doing it. Like, we still need to keep it around at least for the transition, and then keep most of it too. Like, if you go out and kill somebody, yeah, you deserve to be put away for a long time because I mean, especially if you intentionally kill somebody. Now, if you accidentally, that's a big toss-up because I know of people that are in prison for like, decades because of accidents. Like this one guy, 15 years in Lyman, like, and accidentally killed somebody. Now, I won't say any more information because that is against the law. Like, you can't be doxing people is what they call it. And honestly, like, we really should be keeping all of this vague. It's enough to say, I know somebody, and then you can leave it at that. Like, we really don't need to be trying to investigate all this because, well, one, it is against the rule or against the law. Without their permission, you can't reveal identities. So there's that. But for two, it's also not a nice thing to do. Like, it's not your decision to, reveal information about other people. You know, that's why you got to be careful. And but at the same time, it's so annoying that you have to be careful, and that's in my mind one of the biggest inefficiencies of our society is because we have to walk on eggshells depending on the situation, and it all stems back to illegal cannabis. And I'm serious. Like it sounds crazy and it sounds like just some like, you know, hippy dippy dream or something, but it really is because without legal cannabis, your only option to recreate like a cool person or, you know, just to be even, you know, one of the regular people. And that's the thing is like you can make it more popular to not drink, which works to a point, but there's going to come a time when there's going to be a situation almost always that they're like you're going to need to at least be okay with being around with it. And that's what I was saying is like it is refreshing that nowadays it is, and back in the day it wasn't as nice. And back in the day we used to smoke in college campuses. When I was a kid, I used to go to college with my dad, and I actually learned about evaporation when I was like, you know, just like a toddler and stuff. I mean, I was old enough to understand. I was sitting there listening, like, you know, but they didn't have good daycare, couldn't afford it, or whatever the case may be. So I was hanging out in college, and they smoked cigarettes. So like we were just smoking. Not we, I didn't, of course, but like I'm sitting there as a kid, and there's cigarette smoke. So a different time. So look at that, and that, you know, be hopeful, be optimistic, and be patient. Don't panic. That's a great thing from Douglas Adams. Hold on. Sorry. Anyways, a lot to process about law enforcement and corrections, and then I just get excited about these other things. But basically, you know, it is something to consider. And with alcohol being like the legal thing to do, and I'm not saying, you know, we need to ban that either. We need to give people a choice. And that's why I love Colorado is because like we don't demonize alcohol. Like we still keep it under watchful eye. We've got, you know, the drunk driving, Mothers Against Drunk Driving. Fort Collins was #1 in the country for multiple years. And you know, and I know it was at least 1 year because there was a party class that taught that, but I'd be interested to see how many years it was. But just like how Colorado is ranked #1 in crime, like it's ridiculous because you would think, oh my gosh, it's the most dangerous place to live. Well, I mean, yeah, if you smoke bud, it's pretty dangerous for you because you'll get on probation or go to jail. At least, just kidding. Up until it was legalized recreationally, I don't even remember how long ago, but the fact is I know people that went to jail for having weed on them before that law. I know people that are in prison for having mushrooms, and mushrooms are now legal. So, anyways, I digress. What I'm saying is, you just need to be careful with how you judge people, really, and just try not to a lot. I mean, still like make it make sense. Like I'm not saying leave your purse around when anybody's around, because unfortunately we're not to that point yet. Maybe in Dubai, I did notice that like it was, but the penalty for doing stuff over there is like very severe. Like I almost want to say you could get your hand chopped off for certain things. I know you can for being a drug dealer, and you can be put to death for a lot of things. Although, and I know I've said this before on Amusing, you can do that here. If you don't put your hands up, if you charge a cop, you could get killed pretty quick. So I digress. I'm just saying, like, keep that in mind. Keep a good perspective of like, you know, these third world countries, or even not with third world. Like, I like to think most of the countries are catching up, or at least in the process. I mean, and I'm not trying to be the naive white person there saying that. I'm just saying like I'm that optimistic with society today that we have such good venues and routes for charity to reach these places. I mean, especially looking at Mr. Beast, like he did that. He brought water to that village in Africa. That's the one I was thinking of when I was like, so, you know, anyways, we won't even go down there. But I know what's happening, and it's not just him. It's, you know, all of these wealthy philanthropic people, and I actually know quite a few through my work too. And it's like, actually, my work history has been, it's kind of an ongoing thing. It's like somewhere, somehow, there are investors. Now, whether you want to think of them as good or bad, that's really a gray area too. Like, that's not even fair to pigeonhole people if they're wealthy. I mean, definitely an unpopular opinion if I ever heard one, but it's something you got to consider is like, don't get down on rich people. Like Elon Musk, there's a perfect example. So many people hate Elon because he's wealthy, and just because he's wealthy. And then even more people hate him because of his political opinions. And honestly, like, that's fine. I saw him post something about that one guy that's like trailing dead last in the GOP candidates. He had like 6% or something. And, you know, who knows? Maybe with the Elon bump, maybe he'll jump to the front. I don't know. But, like, I'm pretty sure it's going to come down to Trump or DeSantis. Like, and honestly, I don't care. If it happens, it's 4 years of my life. It's not the end of the world. And that's what I'm saying. It's like, and not to get all political, and please don't get angry because I'm usually a registered Democrat. Like, I'm skeptical though. And that's the thing. A lot of my best friends are like heavy MAGA, hardcore Trump supporters. And I give them crap all the time. But do I hate them? No. Am I ever gonna like hurt them or anything? Good Lord, no. Like this whole Civil War nonsense, it's so bad, and that's why we need to especially address these issues because it is getting out of control, and that's the thing, and it's affecting the whole world. Really, it's like our ridiculousness. It's like we're that awkward neighbor that's just always doing stupid things, or like bringing out entire trash barrels full of booze cans, or like yelling at their domestic violence stuff, or like yeah, we're that crazy neighbor that's like or not crazy, sorry, we're that risky neighbor. See, and even that, like I know that I'm trying to do better about that, but it slips out, and we got to be easy on ourselves because otherwise that's when the frustration happens. Then it's like, oh, I got to be PC and now I got to say this and what's next, And I know that's the general sentiment of a lot of people that prefer not to get with the times, or and not saying like that. Like, I mean, it's long overdue. Like a lot of this political correctness, but really, it's long overdue that we're addressing the underlying issues. Like, it's great that we're not saying racial slurs nearly as much as we used to. But then again, I used to laugh at some pretty raunchy comedy, George Carlin, stuff like that. Like the stuff back in the day where it was still very acceptable, but you knew at the end of the day, he wasn't saying it with hate. Like he didn't want to wish ill will on anybody. Like, and actually, I don't even think he said a lot of racial slurs. I just think he just swore a lot. But even the people like Dave Chappelle, there's another one. Like he made it rich, um, making it okay to rip on black people, and it bit him back. I mean, I'm pretty sure that's why he like that whole Africa trip, and he had to like go find his roots and whatever it was. Like it was funny, it was hilarious, but at the same time, it's like why I could never sing along to a lot of my favorite rap music, especially around other people. It's like, and even when I was just by myself, I would just not say the words. Like, I just not drop the N-bomb. It's not that hard. Like, anyways, I digress. But that's even dealing with a generation that is very acceptable. Not only acceptable, it was encouraged to use the N-bomb. And that's what people don't realize. Like, you've got all this culture. They want to be, fit in and all that. I don't know. And that we could do a whole musings on just that part. But the reason I say situations and perspectives is because, all right, so take somebody that grew up not understanding any of that. Like you're approaching a culture that you have no experience with. And we think about that as like visiting another country or like, another civilization or finding a lost tribe. Well, think about it as a rural versus an urban community. Like pretty much half of America, one way or the other, and what you have is a situational, or what is it, like it's an environmental importance or something like that. I just heard something like that, like different universe. Anyways, so even within different communities there are different societal norms and different customs that would allow or facilitate for racism, for oppression, for sexism, for religious extremism. Like, anything you want to label of like a societal problem can stem from just being from a small town and going to a city, or vice versa. Like you grew up in the city where people are exposed to a lot more, I guess is a good way to put it. Like, and it's true. Like, I mean, then it's not such a spectacle. Then it's not such a thing. Like, whereas, you go to, okay, here's an example. The tribes in Papua New Guinea who had not seen human or outside civilization, they saw a plane. I studied this in an anthropology class. This is where I'm coming with all this. But, and there's video footage of them flying in a plane. It's like black and white footage. And like these tribal people are they're so just taken back by this, like, this winged god that flew and delivered these people. Like, who are these people? And, and then I feel like they kind of like got wise. It wasn't too long before they're like, all right, they're just normal people. They just got a lot of cool stuff. And they tried to get a lot of stuff, but it was just like, we think about that being so weird, but it could still happen. In fact, I think I've read somewhere that there's still tribes in the Amazon, supposedly, or from infrared pictures, we estimate that there's tribes, or however they found out this stuff. I heard that there was still tribes that were undiscovered, or at least like they don't interact with people. In fact, I was just reading a book that was a fiction book. I mean, but he bases a lot of it, James Rollins stuff. It was James Rollins. It's not. Is it Subterranean? It's the one where. Well, actually, there's two. Hold on now. Now I kind of want to look it up. But, anyways, you can't go wrong with James Rollins. But he does a couple of books. One is like it's Subterranean, I think, or Excavation. Never mind. I think it might be excavation because one of them is the one where they go to Antarctica and they, blah blah blah. They dig and stuff. But then the other one, they're digging in like Peru, I want to say, and they're yeah, because they're trying to. Or is it Peru? Anyways, doesn't matter. They're they're digging somewhere down there. Actually, I guess it does matter. So they're digging at the ruins of Peru. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's it. And then they find some native tribe. Anyways, I don't want to spoil anything, but like, and then in the other one, they're still in the Amazon, but it's in a way different place. I think in Brazil. And like, and see, that's the other thing too. I'm not familiar with South America, so it's easy for me to make these generalizations trying to be accurate, but I have no idea. I would want to go look at it before I'd say. Now, what I could say, and the safer thing to say in conversation is like, I'd have to check, but I'm pretty sure it was blah, blah, blah. It was XYZ. And so, and I try to talk like that with everything because it's like, I've been proven wrong so many times, and it does get old, and and it's awkward for people. And but at the same time, I don't really take a lot of pride in my pride, if that makes sense. I guess I don't really care too much about what people think to a point. Now, obviously, I do care. Like, I mean, I love my current job, and that's why I don't go too much into details about it, because I say some pretty controversial things on here. I'm really trying not to, but if you were just to walk into one of these muses and just not really know what's going on, it could be pretty messed up. Like I talk about politics, religion, like, why they're good, why they're bad, like, and all these things, and like all of the taboo things that you're not supposed to talk about in polite conversation. So that's because I want it to be not. Sorry, I was trying to be all cheesy with it there, but no, that is the point. Is I want it to be able to be polite conversation, to a point. I mean, like I say that just because like religion is still just so much. We've got a long ways to go before everybody is comfortable with that. And it is really sad. Like I mean, I grew up Christian. I'm non-practicing. I will say that out. And I don't care what you are. I respect you equally as a person. And that's the thing we all need to do is like if your beliefs differ, that's fine. Your perspective is different than mine. Your environment was different than mine. You grew up in a completely different place or not. Like, I mean, even the people that grew up next to you, you don't know what else went on behind the scenes or under the hood. We talk about these things in tech all the time. It's like, oh, there's something going on under the hood. It translates to there's something happening. I don't know what it is yet, but I intend to figure it out. And that's basically IT in a nutshell. It's like, oh, well, that's new. So let me try some things that have worked for other things that I know to work. And that's why I do all this stuff with like behavioral things for people solving. I mean, because if you think about it, what are people but just a complex machine, a system of parts that work together? And if they start to fail, well, okay, then you go to med school and you study for years and years of your life and spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on an education, thus increasing the price and value of healthcare. See? It's all related. We got to go to nonprofit education for everything. It's just all going to be nonprofit because then we save money on the bottom line everywhere else. The skills are easier to get. Oh, wait, just kidding. Okay, sorry, let me back up a little bit. I'm kind of going off there. Ugh. Getting a tech degree is as easy as watching a bunch of YouTube videos, but not quite because you're not getting the degree from an actual accredited university. And that's why I say, I encourage you to get a certain level on coding game or not. Yeah, coding game. Sorry, not Code Wars. Code Wars does, or no, sorry, Code Academy. There we go. I didn't even say it any of the first times. Code Academy was the original place that I went to, and I was like, oh, I want to learn coding, and they're great. Don't get me wrong, and they do have a pay service that it definitely does teach you. And if you want to spend the money, you can do that. And I don't know, but see, the thing is, I still don't think that they can give an accreditation unless they've changed it, which they very well could have. And see, again, like I'm not trying to diss on anybody and get in trouble, but at the same time, I'm trying to be respectful of, I actually don't know. So without knowing, all I have to go off of is what I remember from, and this is like 2010 when I switched majors and came back to CSU. So like, yeah, yeah. Anyways, the whole point of that is I like to speak in these ways because if I'm completely wrong, then it doesn't matter because I'm at least acknowledging that. And also legal sense, but I'm not as afraid of that because I'm not big on YouTube, but even if I was big on YouTube, I wouldn't be as worried about copyright things because I know the process, like unless it's something like obscenely like, intentionally trying to rip someone off, Like you get a copyright strike, you get a you get a warning, and then you get it taken down. So there is some leeway. So it's not that I'm, going to go out there and try to copyright things and try to break the rules. It's that I understand the rules enough to the point where I have pretty good confidence that I won't do it in the first place, so it's a non-issue. But if I do, it really is an honest mistake, and we can take the video down, and I will be more careful, which I actually have had to do that, by the way. So for anyone following along with these things and trying to do your own YouTube, you get copyright strikes a lot on Fortnite. So I think it's whenever you do the dance and then they played a little bit of music, or like, I guess it's really anytime that music plays, there's a potential for copyright because you're recording that and that's going to your video. And so, and nothing's happened with those. There's like a warning, and I think it was even saying like, so, and I don't know how to get around that because like just don't do emotes when you're playing, and what's the fun in that? Like, I don't know, I guess you can't, maybe if I really wanted to be popular with that, and I can see that, and if they really wanted to take the video down, but honestly, if I paid money to buy your song even for a second, I feel like I should get some leeway on that, you know? Like, I mean, I did pay some money for that song, right? But not, yeah, not public display of that song because everybody watching didn't pay. I know it's a headache. I actually called the library the other day, just to see about the legality of reading books online because I wanted to do another channel where I just read kids' books, and I still think I'm going to do that, but. And as I figured, there is a bunch of copyright restrictions. And even before the library got back to me, and it was awesome. Like, I gotta love the new digital age. Like, I mean, I gave them a call. Like, normally, even within my lifetime, excuse me, you'd have to drive down, go talk to someone in person, make a whole ordeal about it, take a whole day doing it. I took 5 minutes out of my life, gave him a call, said, "Hey, I'm thinking about making a YouTube channel. Nothing." And I and I had to be careful too because I almost said, nothing weird, just like, and out of context, just talking like that, it might make you uncomfortable. Be like, "Oh my gosh, is this guy like a former pedophile?" I'm not, but I do know a bunch of people that have worked in corrections and that have dealt with people of all walks of life, including people that have sex crimes on their record. And yes, and that's where I'm conflicted because, like, I don't know, everything I preach and everything, I still don't think I'm to the point where I would. Anyways, corrections as it is. So, preventative versus reactionary. And I know we were just talking about copyright, but that did just take a turn back into why it's so important to address our current system. And actually, we might as well say that sex crimes, those are the biggest, like, evil that I can think of. Okay, yes, there's murder, and yes, that is evil. But like, aside from murder, and outright murder, because if it was an accident, yeah, and if it was because they were drunk or being careless, okay, I can see them especially getting in more trouble for that. But if it was like an honest to truth accident, like, put yourself in that situation. What if you accidentally killed somebody? Wouldn't you hope that they'd show some leniency on you? Now, and then that ties back to legal cannabis and drinking. Okay, so what if you're drinking because it's the only thing that you can do? I mean, and it is statistically proven. Like, people that get caught smoking and driving and drinking and driving, like, just like the numbers of accidents and everything. Like, I'm not saying it doesn't happen. It happens. Like, you were not supposed to do either and drive. In fact, let's make that perfectly clear. I am not condoning driving while under the influence of any substances. And there's definitely a limit. And even though I think the limit for alcohol is bogus, and I don't drink, mind you, like, I don't like alcohol. I don't even want it ever again. I'm good. And not because, like, I'm just tired. I might change my mind. But anyways, no, I think it's ridiculous because I have a lot of friends in college, just, normal college kids that now have felonies on their records because of a DUI. Remember I was saying that Fort Collins was the #1 for DUI? Yep. Yep, we were #1 for DUI for a while there because the streets right around campus were heavily patrolled and are still. You see cops all the time. Like, anyways, they're everywhere and they are going to pull you over. Why? Because they don't even really need much of a reason. Like, if you're just barely swerving, they could justify that. And, and sometimes they'll even lie too. Like, I hate to say this, but, But because at the end of the day, there is motive behind that. Like law enforcement, if they seem like they're being, pricks about their job, well, it's because they have to. They have to answer to people. And they have, mothers with dead children calling them and talking to them. Like, grief-stricken families of drunk driving victims. Like, there are definitely reasons. So don't get me wrong with that. Like, I'm not saying cops are out there to bust you. They are, but that's not the only reason. That's not the only why. Now, as far as alcohol, now, if we had legal cannabis and smoke shops, and then also other transportation for safely getting people home. Like already I could tell you statistically the amount of people getting into crashes while impaired on marijuana versus alcohol, much less. Like I've read studies that just like and seen statistics and like now you could also argue, well, there's not as many people out there smoking and driving. Oh, I assure you there are. They are. But they are so careful and they are and don't get me wrong, because again, like I mean, I'm not out there breaking the law. This is not a reflection of anything I'm doing. I'm just saying, like, I'm not stupid, and I see people, and I've seen, it's just like, yeah. Anyways, my point being is you always need to be careful, and now we have a lot more options. So it is safer in this day and age because of things like Uber. But what if you can't afford Uber? So see, there you go. There's a wealth inequality that could potentially lead to increased crime rates or increased problems that we need to solve. See, not thinking about it in like, oh, he's a criminal, bust him, or oh, she's a criminal, buster. Like, no, let's just fix it so it doesn't happen and then move on. And then everybody's going to be happier. I can guarantee that. You won't have all these people getting all hard in prison, like, all these clicking up and everything. Like, you just don't see it. If we didn't send nonviolent offenders to prison, we wouldn't have probably most of our violent offenders. Because, see, it's all related. It all goes back to somehow someone was messed up somewhere along the way. And as much as I hate the term broken person, something messed them up. Like, maybe they did break, but they can. And see, I don't even like that because, like, and nobody really does. Like, let's talk about that for a second. I forget what show it was, but there was like a vase. All right, let me back up. There is a form of art, and I believe it's Japanese, but I could be wrong. And this one, I definitely, before I credit anyone with it, I would want to look it up because it is a very big and important thing. I just don't remember because I took a lot of art classes. Anyways, but I digress. It's where they take broken pottery and they fix it with gold, making it more valuable the second time around, basically. Like it is more valuable now that it has broken, it has gained this experience, and now it's got gold fixing it. And that really is profound, and we should think about everybody that way. And we should also realize that everybody breaks. And see, let's, back to the religion and stuff. I think that was the original idea of the original sin was they were trying to communicate that nobody's perfect, everybody is flawed, and you need us to save you. Now, and that's where people get confused. Us should be anybody that lives a certain way or tries to live a certain way that is conducive to a healthy and prolonged lifestyle. So us could be hippies that used to just want to save the earth, or Christians, or Muslims, or see, I get this wrong because I don't think it's polite to say Jews. Like that just even sounds wrong. So Jewish people or people of the Jewish faith. But either way, just know, and I know I just said it there, and I kind of flinched because I was like, that just doesn't feel right. And I dated a Jewish woman in high school, like loved her, high school sweetheart, taught me how to speak about Jewish people. And so like even just saying it, I know it's a slight, but at the same time, I don't know if things change. And see, there's that perspective and environment. So my environment personally is I don't know if things have changed, if the trend has changed to where that is now acceptable, or because, and by saying that, I'm really talking about Black, African American, or people with African heritage, because I'm especially not trying to offend anyone like that, because I keep going back to the whole slavery thing, and that doesn't mean that I'm not a racist. I'm just saying, like, if anybody knows about situational and perception-based environments, it's people of African descent. Like, okay, and why this is, and this is one of the most confusing things ever, because, rappers use the N-word all the time and stuff, but it's like, okay, so just looking at a broad glaze over the term, we got history. Like, everything would have been fine if they You know, like if we didn't like go over there, kidnap them and force them to work and build our country, like we did all of these horrible atrocities after, just killing all the natives to build like what I'm saying is like we were messing up big and a lot of people were. And a lot of that was due to they didn't, well, first they didn't make the connection that other people were people. And I know that's messed up to say, but that's from studying anthropology and history and like just putting these pieces together. It's like they really didn't even think of these people as people. They thought they were like an actual. I don't know. I'm thinking about that story that I've heard, and I don't even know if this is true or if it's just legend. But when Christopher Columbus came to the New World, the quote unquote New World, when he discovered America, the natives saw them and didn't comprehend what ships were, so they didn't see them. And I honestly don't know if that's accurate because I want to say I saw that on something like a PBS or something. Like, did you know that they didn't even see him? But maybe what they were saying, maybe that was just my poor interpretation of what they said. Actually, that's probably more believable. See, right there, problem solving in our own flawed logic. Like, it's important. You got to kind of do it. It's costly because now I'm forgetting what else I was talking about. But no, perspectives and environment. So I believe the natives saw the ships, but they didn't understand what the ships were. So they just thought, maybe they were just large pieces of driftwood. They're just some kind of like just some piece of trash or some new creature or well, it wasn't moving, so it looked like a moving tree or something. So they would have to relate it to something that they were familiar with. And that's something that we may never know because well, one, I don't know how much written record was actually taken from the native dialogue side because the to the victor go the spoils. And by that, I mean, whoever is the winner is going to write history. And so history could be very skewed. In fact, I'm sure it is, to honor the people that did the things, like that did the conquering or found the new world or whatever. Like, didn't matter how horrible a person they were able to do this thing, and then they believed it too. They're like, oh, hey, look at all these people, raising me up on a pedestal. Literally pedestals. When you talk about like Greek and Roman history, like they had their generals and everything. Like, they were on coins. You could watch Hercules, the Disney movie Hercules, and learn all about that. But like honestly, you really should watch some or take a class. I definitely encourage higher education. That's why I want it to all be nonprofit, so it's actually affordable for everybody. Because I mean, I worked my whole life just to pay for college, and I still got massive college debt. And that's with like, I don't know. I really think everybody should work. And by work, I don't mean actually get a 9 to 5 or something. Like, I mean, obviously you want to do summer jobs when you're a kid, but like there's different forms of work. Like whether you actually get a paycheck or not, as long as you're doing something. By that, I mean, you could be out doing charity or Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts and in fact, I think now they're just mixing them as scouts, which is awesome. But also dangerous too, because let's be real, I'm all for equality, but once they start hitting puberty, they need to have separate camps, literally. Like they need to have separate camps. It's just a thing. Um, but I don't know, but maybe not. I say that, but and as a parent, I am concerned about the day when my kids actually get to that age and start dating. Mm. Just because I remember my experiences, but then at the same time, isn't that everyone's experiences for the most part? Like you all grow up. Anyways, there's a time and place for everything, and it's called college, and that's why I love South Park is because they do. Sometimes they just have these like moments of absolute wisdom, like boom. If you can at least make it to college before you start making like the big mistakes to really like start learning things, then you're doing all right. And not everybody does that before they get to college. You get that senioritis going, and then you start acting up before you even leave high school, and it's natural. It's not okay, like some of the things that happen because of it. I'm not trying to justify that, but it is natural. Also, I completely just forgot what I was doing and just kept making this bridge wider and wider. Like, I don't even know. I mean, I'll keep going with it. I'll do another one. But I also noticed I'm going to start making like a roof this way. And eventually I want to connect these two. So, eh, yeah, whatever. Let's do one more. So I'll figure it out. If not, I'll fix it. It's not a huge deal. And that's the other thing too, is you need to take everything with a grain of salt. And by that I mean relax. And that sucks to tell people. You never want to tell someone to relax. They will never relax. But you got to remember to take that moment for yourself, gather yourself and relax, whether it's a deep breath and try not to make it visual. So that's the other thing too. So communication, I forget the exact percentages, and again, not important, but what is important is to understand that there is a percentage breakdown of visual versus non-visual communication. So that's why it's not the same. Oh, actually, I don't even have a pickaxe now, so I gotta trek. But that's okay. We'll get to go see the no, the little railway that I made. Oh, actually, I need to. Oh god, that's cold. Sorry. Reusing some water from my son's bottle. There we go. Thermos, whatever. He's not a baby. Oh gosh, I accidentally fell. That would have been a horrible way to die. All right, sorry, I spilled a little water. So, anyways, not a big deal. Although this is going to be kind of annoying because we got to try to get back onto that highway. So we'll see. But that's why part of the reason I like it above the water, because even if I'm absent-minded or something, I just fall off. There you go. So, or I get distracted spilling water. But no, what it was is I was trying to do it with one hand, and one hand still using the controls. So, also why you don't do that when driving. But that should just be common sense. Should be, but it isn't always. All right, no, I'm not feeling that adventurous. This adventurous, maybe. And I really don't want to break. I know I still have a long ways to go being a diamond pickaxe or anything with Unbreaking 3, I think. Yeah, before I say it. See, I don't even know. I mean, I like to think I made the best tools that I can, but honestly, like I could come back. I wasn't even doing the best trading I could have been doing within these Musings videos. Like in the time that I've been doing these, I still learned something about Minecraft. Oh, actually, that's not that unbelievable because we were talking about that light thing. And I don't know if that's true, but makes more sense than anything else I've had so far, I've thought of. So, anyways, um, yeah, so I built the train tracks, a railway to connect this area. Now I gotta figure out where. There they are. Yes, because they go down that little section of water. It's like where the goat's drooling, kind of. I gotta go over here. Yeah, so eventually I'm just gonna make this like big old base, and I don't want to like take away from the goat aspect. Ah, did you see that? That could have been death, and I saw that on the way over here. Oh, that totally could have been death. Oh, okay. Anyways, it would have been better than lava though, because I would have just gone in back and got my tools. Like they'd be still there. It would have been a hassle. It would have been a pain, and that is something. If you do decide to start playing this game, you will learn that there are some moments that give you patience, and really, we all need those. I mean, I kept hearing it again, like, you're so patient, you're so kind. It's like, and don't get me wrong, like, that's nice. I appreciate that. But it also makes me sad because it means that they experience so many interactions with other people that are not patient and not kind. And, and there is that common joke. And that's the thing, too, is like, and I've seen it in IT departments, is like, we like to joke about them, but then at the end of the day, it's like, that could be me. And so, and as soon as you do that, then you're just like, oh, huh. Now it's not as fun to joke about it. And see, there's the thing. Situational. Now, growing up in a small town, you might not have a situation where you see people of any difference. And so it's easier for you to joke about things. And to you, it is just that, just a joke, But then to other people that have experienced, and they may not have even actually experienced firsthand, all they need to do is learn in history class that something bad happened to their ancestors. And I'm not saying that, critical race theory, this or that. It is vital that we learn history. That is my stance on it. And not the history that you want to learn, the history that exists. And again, history is written by the victor. So, and even that, and so that was more true farther back in history. I should make that clarification because, like, so back in the day, we still had video cameras. We still had, like, our communication technology has been enhancing ever since the invention of cuneiform tablets. So, I mean, that's the first example that we have of written history. And so that is the very first communication technology that we know of, that we have proof of. I mean, it could always change. And see, that's the other thing too. Like even in archaeology and stuff, and studying history, like we could find something that contradicts what we already know. And so, and see, that's the biggest thing between like science and religion is like with religion, it has to be or it breaks. Like, and that's why I'm a skeptical Christian. Like, I mean, I'm a non-practicing. I wouldn't really claim Christian anywhere because like I definitely don't do any of this stuff except for treat people with kindness and patience. And I do that because, not because I'm a good Christian, no. I mean, that is how I was raised, but I do it because I've studied enough of people in many different environments and situations to where it is the most logical way to approach any problem. And that's important. If you're gonna and you're gonna be problem solving, that is life. That is life in a nutshell. I mean, you wake up, and actually, that's kind of more of a more evidence to why the Matrix might be a thing, is because in the Matrix, for those of you that haven't seen it, and I don't care about spoiling this, if you haven't seen the Matrix now, okay, pause the video, go watch it. But I'm just gonna say right now that originally they did make it a paradise to where the people would never know that they were batteries. And the problem with that is people couldn't accept the reality, and they started dying, like, or they just weren't, or whatever. Like, it wasn't. I think it was they just started dying. But anyways, their brains rejected it. They knew it was fake, and they couldn't exist in that docile battery state. And that is what sells the fiction, because it is fiction until it's proven. Sorry, I'm going to throw that out there, and not to disrespect religion, but like that is why it's so dangerous, is because if you can't prove it, then any of these wonderful stories that we write and create could accidentally become. Oh, and there's my timer. I got a 5-minute warning. But anyways, yeah, and it can't be said enough that you can still respect religion and be skeptical of it. And if you're wrong, okay. I think any god or creator will be like, okay, overall, you did some things, but here's what, it's not such a thing like, oh, you stole a piece of candy back in third grade, so you're going to hell. Like, no, and I don't see that. That's so much hassle, too. Like, I can't imagine a system. Now, it could be wrong. It could be that, and oh gosh, I hope not. But at the same time, the chances of being real are highly unlikely. So, that's why, but that's the thing. Without your perspective of it, without your experience with it, anything can seem irrational, or anything can seem unfathomable, because you can't comprehend or fathom it. Like, you literally have no frame of reference to compare it to. So yeah, it does make sense. It's not great. And now that we have all these tools for communication and stuff, we got to be better about that. So, and that's why I'm all about these projects too. Is like, I don't want any fame. I really don't. Like, if it gets to that point, I'll just say he did it or she did it. Like, I would literally do something like that, because it's uncomfortable. It's awkward. What I want is for everybody to want to do that, just enough. And again, okay, sorry. As much as I say, oh, don't follow religion too closely. Part of it was, crud. Wait, I forgot what I was just talking about. Oh yeah. Don't take pride in your accomplishments. There you go. Sorry. And when you judge somebody, what is the actual verbiage of it? Before you judge someone for the speck in their eye, remove the log from your own. And that's like, for every finger you point at me, there's 3 pointing back at you. And I came up with that. I know I'm not the first one, but I came up with that isolated from Brad Pitt, and then I see it in that movie, and I'm just like, what? I mean, it was only a matter of time. I mean, it's a great fortune cookie saying, like, and the human brain and all that. We were all made in his image, blah blah blah. All right, well, sorry, let's talk about that real quick. All we need to do to bring women equality is just simply rewrite the Bible and edit those pronouns. That's it. His to their, and that's it. Like, that's it. You could have just removed all of this confusion, but then you got to get into all this thing. Well, oh, okay, well, Adam and Eve and then the rib, and like, oh, well, that makes women lesser. Well, again, we didn't even have written history until the cuneiform tablets. So how are you going to trust like a told me down story from the time of the? Okay, just kidding. If you know your history, the cuneiform tablets came before Christianity, but still, what I'm saying is, like, we had communication technology, but it wasn't perfect. So, and we made shortcuts in explaining things, or maybe, and not intentionally, like, we just didn't have the technology to explain it to the point of like English vernacular, like to be able to describe it as like a Midsummer's Dream, or get all Shakespeare with it. Like, we didn't have that. We had little tablets with like little shapes, and then you'd carve a shape in there. Probably take you all day just to carve those shapes. And then if you broke the tablet, you throw your hands up, get all upset, and then you go carve another tablet. And then even when we got to movable print, well, okay, well, I just printed this book. It cost me like $3,000 in common day money. Like, Okay, well, we're not going to fix that edit. We're not going to change those pronouns. It's not going to worry, you know? And I honestly think that's what happened because that makes more sense than any creator being like, blah, you have to do this and this is the thing. Seriously, it makes way more sense. It's like we goofed, whether it was intentional or unintentional, we goofed. And now we know how to talk better. We're enhancing our communication skills and technology. But anyways, now this is the very last minute and it's going to cut me off. So have a good one, everybody. Hopefully this didn't go too deep, but perspective and communication. That's what we need in all forms of problem solving, especially when dealing with people. So be kind to each other and just really think before you act and think before you speak. But also be lenient on others and accept that they might not be on their best behavior because they might not know. I mean, now, if they're blatantly like trying to like offend you, then yeah, let them know, or at least let them know anyway. Just be like, hey, I don't appreciate that, and it'll be awkward, but maybe it won't be as awkward next time, and they won't say it. So, I don't know. I digress. But anyways, hope you all enjoy the rest of your Monday, and I will see you in the next one. Ta ta.